Today, on The American Land Seller, we're pulling back the curtain on a process every land buyer should understand: how agriculture land loans really work and how to get an edge when it comes to financing. Joining me is Roger Wiese, a longtime Nebraska leader and now a key member of the lending team at MAC America, a company specializing in long-term fixed-rate financing for farmers, ranchers, and land investors across the country. Roger spent decades building systems and leading organizations in the public health world. Now he brings that same level of structure and strategy to agriculture lending. At MAC America, he helps clients navigate the loan process from start to finish, offering access to funding sources that most banks can't touch, including Farmer Mac, FSA, and private capital pools. In this episode, Roger walks us through the step-by-step process of securing a land loan, how MAC America structures deals differently than traditional banks, and what we all need to know to help get our loans approved and funded faster. If you've ever hit a financing wall with a traditional lender, or just want to understand what's really possible outside the box of conventional ag lending, Roger's insight is going to be invaluable.
Welcome to the American Land Seller Podcast with your host, Kobe Rickertson. Kobe is an accredited land consultant and multi-state land broker with High Point Land Company. Join us each week as we explore all things land. We bring you fresh insights and expert guests on sales, marketing, regulations, economics, and so much more. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms.
Okay, Kobe and our special guests, let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the American Land Seller Podcast. Super excited today to have Roger Wiese from MAC America Ag Financing. Roger, how are you on this Friday?
Kobe, I'm living the dream. Everything is good. Beautiful day. Would be living the dream a little better if we got a little bit more water. Everybody wants more water, that's for sure. But we certainly are experiencing at least some nice weather, some good weather for planting, and did not have a overly rough winter for cattle or anything. So yeah, everything's looking pretty good so far. Just need some moisture in the ground.
Yeah. Definitely a little bit of drought going on in our part of the country here in Nebraska. Roger, you're from O'Neill, Nebraska. Tell people a little bit about your part of the state of Nebraska. I'm from kind of south central. You're from kind of the northern part. So what's going on in O'Neill?
Well, as far as around O'Neill, we're kind of in a unique area, I guess, and in the state of Nebraska, just shy of the South Dakota border, about a couple stone throws at 35 miles there. O'Neill kind of follows that corridor, kind of coming up, Kobe, from where maybe going down by Albion and such like that, where it seems like we kind of split, where a certain portion of the land up here tends to be cropland and such, but then boom, all of a sudden you just kind of start to switch to the cattle and pasture land and stuff like that. So it's really kind of a unique area. I grew up, born and raised around Lindsay, Nebraska, born in the old Newman Grove Hospital, so which no longer is necessarily there, and born on a farm just south of Lindsay, south and west, just a smidgen, and then also raised around Columbus area and such like that. So just a little bit different. Everything there around the Lindsay, Cornley, Humphrey areas, all farmland for the most part and stuff, and so this is a little bit different. Moved up here about almost 25 years ago now, when married my beautiful bride. And we have 8 children, and her family are farmers and ranchers around the Page area, Page, Nebraska, just a little bit 18 miles east of O'Neill. So this is kind of where we've settled, and so Irish capital of Nebraska, and here we are. So
that's what I've heard. It's the Irish capital of Nebraska. I've been to O'Neill quite a few times in my years. Beautiful part of the country up there. Now, I haven't been up there for a while. Used to have a very successful tomato
Yeah.
greenhouse. Is that still in operation up there, kind of right outside of town?
Yeah, I guess to my understanding, probably not in full operation. It kind of went through different management and different owners, I believe, here and there, off and on. So right now, I believe they're looking for uh, a little bit more uh, transition to try to make it more active and more developed and such like that. But my understanding is it's definitely not in full operation. There may be segments of it are, but it's a big building, and I know when it was operating, it was pretty cool. So
Yeah, years ago I had the opportunity back when it was in full swing to take a tour of that, and that was pretty
oh yeah,
impressive. But all right, well,
yeah, really neat operation how those work.
yeah. Roger, let's let's start getting into. Wanted to have you on today to talk just a little bit about. I know if you listen to the media, talk to the news, of course the sky's falling, the world's coming to an end. That's the way everybody perceives everything. I've made my point. I wrote an article for the Realtors Land Institute recently, a blog post, and an article for the Terra Firma magazine, kind of about maybe the world isn't quite as bad as we thought it was. From going to the land conference, talking to the land sellers around the country. My takeaway from those guys is maybe they're going to have just as good a year, if not a better year than they had last year, is kind of what they're looking at. What are you seeing as you're dealing with your clients around the Midwest? Because you don't work just in Nebraska, correct? You work all over, kind of in the Midwest area.
Yeah.
Is the sky falling? Is the world coming to an end, or are we just kind of at a maybe a plateau where we're maybe taking a break and the world, like land prices aren't continually going crazy and up and up and up? What are
Yeah.
you seeing from your chair?
Yeah, I think from the optimist standpoint of view or something like that, looking at things in a positive notion, the world is never falling. It's just there's some rainy days and there's some sunny days,
Sure.
and uh, I suppose when you look back at things over and over and over. I'll kind of regress just a little bit to Warren Buffett just had his large annual,
Yeah.
and so I shareholders meeting, excuse me, in Omaha there, beginning of May, and I did not attend this year, but I listened to a lot of them, and I know Warren isn't really big into as far as agricultural investments and such like that. But they do have Berkshire Hathaway real estate and such, and I know they do not only residential, but they expand a little bit more with that. But anyway, just listening to Warren, one of the things I know when he was saying, and he's been an investor a long time, and it seems like every 3 5 years of something, some major event, whether it's nature or whether it's political or whether it's economic, there will always be the sky is falling.
Right.
And, from his standpoint, he just really looks at that as those are always opportunities, and there's always going to be growth. As an example, when he refers as the stock market, it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow. The U.S. economy is strong. I think that, or from what I see, and I would say from those that just hold a very positive viewpoint, probably coming out of the early 2000s of COVID and such like that, I think may have just really thrown a lot of things in an upheaval here and there. I think it led to a lot of that mind uncertainty. Where are things going? What's next? But there's still a lot of positives that are flowing, and whether that be opportunities for land sales that may be in close proximity to somebody, or Example would be looking at the cattle industry right now, where things are going there. I'm not certain a lot of people predicted that maybe 5, 7 years ago. Maybe they did. I don't know. But things are looking good in that regard. So uh, I always want to take the positive standpoint that I'm just not certain that the sky is falling any more now than when it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or et cetera. So that's probably the stance that I take. And I think the media and other folks may say the sky is falling. I think if you go to the coffee shop and you talk with folks, if you and I were to sit down and have a coffee with some farmers and ranchers, they have questions, but I think there's still a lot of good vibes that they have about the year and such like that. So
Yeah. Well, I think there's no doubt if you're a producer that there's not a whole lot of light daylight between where commodity pricing is and where your input costs are. And so and this is another year of that. And
mhm.
so without a lot of relief there, I think there's a lot of guys that aren't super cheery about it, but the guys that like I think the guys that I know and the guys that I talk to on a regular basis, they kind of build that into their business model, knowing that that's kind of the 7 to 8 years, business structure is that they
Yep.
have ups and downs and they kind of that's why they don't spend all their money in the good times because they have to cycle that back around to when the market returns to a little bit more uh, modest market. But
Yeah, and I'd say that's a very good point. And you mentioned input costs. Um, quite honestly, yeah, aren't input costs right now pretty much just affecting everybody? I mean, whether you're a producer and it's your own business, it's you have to include those input costs. And over the last 4 years, you've seen them increase dramatically. I know just even thinking from a non-business standpoint, having 4 or 5 vehicles around the house with the kids and stuff and wanting to change oil on them at home, as an example. I mean, I think doing it myself, it costs double, if not more than double, than it did just 5 years ago. And I think that's really hard for people to grasp and understand. And if there's anything that kind of would lend me to believe that, things are tough in that regard, it really is the sudden increase of the cost of a lot of inputs, not just for business purposes as well, but quite honestly, even just for family living, right? And the producers, the cattle people, the farmers, they all still have the regular um, increases in pricing of just daily living, like everybody else has, and the inputs I think are just overall it can be a struggle for a lot of folks trying to blend that in.
yeah, it's kind of coming at them from everywhere, that's for
It
sure.
is.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. The American Land Seller Podcast is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit LandHub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. LandHub.com, where your land journey begins. All right, we are back here with Roger Wiese with Mac America Ag Financing today. And you can find all kinds of fun stuff about Mac America Ag Financing at aglandfinance.com. Correct, Roger? Am I correct in that?
That is correct, and I believe the website is getting upgraded a little bit here pretty soon, if not already. So
But
yeah,
you guys
please.
is like you guys' home base is not Mars or anything. It's like right here in Nebraska. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right. We're a little unique because we're Mac America is not necessarily in a brick and mortar building, so we're like, for instance, I'm an independent finance advisor or an officer with that. Um, but I work out of my home, or as you, Kobe, we're gonna a lot on the four wheels on the road, right? So your main office and may have that windshield in front of you, so to speak. So that's nice. So yes, I'm out of my home office and vehicle, and our president, Steve McGuire, basically is the same. So kind of doesn't function a whole lot different than myself, I guess, for the most part. He is out of the David City area, and Justin Grotlushin, vice president there, is out of the Duncan, Nebraska area. So home office throughout Nebraska, I guess, but we also have some independent agents scattered around throughout the Midwest up to Indiana, Illinois, even Montana. But we are all, I guess, licensed, certified, however you want to say it, to be able to go in all the states. So I'll have clients in a number of states, not just Nebraska. So that's a nice aspect. I kind of like it. I really like to learn about those other areas, Missouri and Colorado and stuff like that, because you just get so ingrained to kind of knowing what it's like here in Nebraska. But it's really interesting to know what logistics other producers are facing in other areas. So yeah.
I think it's interesting you talk about that. I just went to a conference last week in Colorado, and as I was going down there, I have a client down down in the Ordway, Sugar City, Colorado area. Went down and drove around, spent a couple hours down there with him, looking around, and we drove down a stretch of highway in Colorado where on one side was this enormous cattle facility, this feeding facility, and on the other side of the highway is a bunch of marijuana grow um, buildings, like
Uh-huh.
greenhouses. And I thought to myself, for the first time in probably a long time, the cattle side was probably worth way more than the marijuana grow side was. So,
Yeah.
the world may be coming back to Jesus, um, whether
Yeah.
whether we
Yeah.
like it or not. But so anyway, let's talk just a little bit about how does someone like someone's looking at buying some land, Roger. What do we need to start considering, right? So I've got cow calf operation. That's we've need some more pasture ground, whether it because of the weather or because we're growing. We're looking at some land. What do before we come to you, or when we're coming to you? What do we need to get together as far as um, maybe financials? Maybe what are you going to be looking at when qualifying us, and
Okay.
then maybe what kind of things about the land are you going to be looking at as far as values and things like that? Let's kind of go through that process.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit. One of the things we'd like to start folks on is first kind of going through our express application, and I'll get into that a little bit.
Sure.
Um, but the express application is well, it's what it is. It's an express application. Thinking of it being pretty fast, pretty quick, with a very quick turnaround within 24 to 48 hours. Lots of times with loan applications up to $5 million or so. So some of the logistics that are important with that, and we'll get some producers that are maybe just getting their feet in the water, some younger folks or middle-aged folks, or really looking at expanding an operation and such like that. And I'd probably just say to start off, one of the very first things we're going to look at is number one, we're not going to look at the land or anything that the individual has, but we really want to be able to get a few things addressed. And that's, personally, I like to really involve myself with the client and what their goals are, what their business plan goals are. Currently, what are they doing? What would they like to be doing? What would they like to be reaching for? Whether they have 50 cow-calf pair right now, 50 head, or they're looking at expanding to 100, or maybe they're just looking at, they've been renting pasture land, they want to look at purchasing pasture land, or whatever that may be. But to be able to get to that point, to really be able to have what would be like your finances, your debt to asset ratio and stuff in order. So I think a lot of that really just kind of revolves around the balance sheet, right? For most anybody, your checkbook and your assets and debt. So being able to really have an adequate balance sheet that is, relatively speaking, up to date, that is caught up. Some producers that I've been working with recently, they may bring me a balance sheet and say, well, yep, we've had that caught up for that's almost 18 months ago or so. And then all of a sudden, which is fine, but then you're going through a certain logistics of the balance sheet, and it may not include that they just sold X equipment, or they have a recently acquired and put up a couple of grain storage bins or whatever it might be. So what do they truly have on their balance sheet, and trying to keep it up to date? An up-to-date balance sheet within the last 12 months is important. I'd probably say even if you can condition yourself to have a balance sheet updated every 3 to 6 months at least, just making sure that you're taking that snapshot picture of it so that you know what is on your balance sheet, and if anything is out of order, if it needs to be updated or not. And then to have them so they're available. It's always nice to be able to have them available, electronic copy, so that can be either yourself, Kobe. You could just say, Roger, here you go, I'm going to email it to you. Or maybe somebody else has that balance sheet that you may be working with, whether that be a finance institution or whatever it may be. But to be able to have access to that balance sheet and have it yourself, I think, is very important. Of course, we'll take hard copies, but it's nice to always have those to where they can either be emailed, or we can send a secure file, and it can be put in that Dropbox. That's kind of the secure system now. So that can be uploaded on our end, but be able to talk with an individual about the balance sheet, and just make sure everything is updated for the most part. I mean, that's one of the areas that I believe is a great starting point. And I think you talked about kind of maybe even a first time producer, or somebody getting their feet wet and stuff like that. I also guess I would encourage to never underestimate looking at FSA loans through the USDA, and even how those can complement an existing loan, or an additional loan like through Mac America, with what we can do, working with an FSA component of part of a loan, and then a term fixed loan, whether it be 20 years, 30 years, or whatever, with an agency like Mac America, and see how those can complement the producer, and just kind of be able to balance that out a little bit, and to see what your option.
Let me interrupt you just once right there. Let's say like somebody listening to this might not understand what that FSA is. like, just can you just take 30 seconds or something and just kind of, or a minute, and kind of explain, like, FSA,
Sure.
like, that's a government agency that that is an asset to, or I don't know, government agency being an asset's kind of an oxymoron, but
Yeah.
it can be an asset to somebody that maybe is a first time farmer, or correct, in the
Yes.
sense of maybe a
Yeah.
low interest rider or asset, or an addition to a loan or a portion of loan, correct?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess without having kind of those notes in front of me, without butchering it too much. So if you're looking at like an FSA loan through roll through the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture there, and they'll have offices and uh, throughout the United States, right? And the unique thing about the FSA loans is they can run off of, or mainly will run off of, some county specific data. So um, being able to, like as an example, you can already own some land, some ag land, but yet you're, I think most are, with all the agencies, a restriction may be that you're not able to own more than 30% of what you're wanting to purchase. So if you're wanting to purchase, let's say for numbers sake, 100 acres, the individual may only be able to own up to 30 or 29%, 29 acres or something like that. And then there'll be other qualifications that apply, but there's really some unique features with that, and a lot of it is involved around what that particular agency, that FSA office, can help somebody out with uh, their down payment. They do have a very low down payment if they offer that and go through that. I think it's like maybe a 5% that gets financed in as a down payment. So that can be attractive for some individuals as they're looking at that. But it's just it's a government option through the USDA, and obviously they're going to be able to work with a producer, or a beginning producer coming in, that can really help catapult to get them started. There will be some limits as to how much money that they may be able to access. And I'd like to say I know what that limit is via every state, if that's national or not, as a set limit, but that may vary between some of the offices. So I don't want to speak too much on that, because the FSA offices, I do believe, run a little bit different in accordance. So it may not be a lot, the 300,000, 500,000, how that goes, but it's a good kickstart to be able to allow folks to be able to get started. And I know they also have land-based or operational loans with that as well. So yeah,
Well,
FSA is a good way to look too.
yeah, and I think like one of the things that we're big advocates for, just like today, Roger, where I don't know everything about loans. That's why I have Roger Wiese, right? Is because I want to marry my clients with you so that you can take care of that aspect of helping them find that money. You
Hmm.
know, we want to marry, like, when we get you involved, then you can bring in that person in that FSA office that can help them through that process, as I also know most of those guys in the FSA offices that can help them through it. But
Yeah,
again, it's just another tool to help somebody achieve their goal. And I
yeah,
and I like what you said in there about what we need to identify what their goal is first. Like, what are they
yeah.
trying to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. The first part of this relationship with a client is of course it's important to know the balance sheet, but I really want to know the individual. I want to know what what they are looking at, what, as a family base too. What is their goals going into their purchase, or their uh, uh, seeking of loans? What are they wanting to ultimately look at and do? Because that I want to be able to put them in position to where they are getting the best value for what they are seeking, and put them in position to where, yes, they can look at other resources that help complement what we can provide, and to be able to give them the tools to be able to make the best value decision for their operation and their business. Because farming or ranching it's a business model. That's all there is to it. And to be able to look at what you want to do, what your goals will be, and how those can best align with any financing available is very important.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of what you're talking about there, it's really tough sometimes to tell people, hey, like this is the stuff that we have to have, but that's honest to God, it's like you said, it's part of being a business owner. I have to
Mm-hmm.
have that stuff. You have to have that stuff as a business owner. You have to have the tools to operate a successful business. It's just part of the deal. And
Yeah.
so being able to, I really like when, and just to recap, we're right up against a break here, but just to recap what you were talking about in there, Roger, is like, I thought it was interesting when you said, even to the point of updating your balance sheet every 3 months. Like, I think that, historically we've always been kind of taught once a year, make sure we sit down and update our balance sheet. I think it's interesting that you're encouraging people to do that up to like
Yeah.
every 3 months. That's
Well,
kind of unique.
I think it just offers somebody to be prepared, because when a purchase of land comes available, whether it's in close proximity or it's contiguous, adjoining land, or whatever, to be able to have your self in order and your documents in order, and that balance sheet as accurate as can be is only going to expedite the producer's process to be able to move forward. And it really kind of, the other aspect that I like about it is it keeps yourself in tune. The more you update, that quick hit update, I guess it's kind of like, I see it just like doing the maintenance, right? If you keep the maintenance on your equipment updated, hopefully you're reducing your breakdowns in the field and everything else. And it's just an important aspect. That finance maintenance is just such valuable. It can be just a very valuable self-driven thing that can help you align with opportunities, but it also, I think, can also help you keep a peace of mind with where you might be as a producer, where you might be spending your dollars on, and what you can conserve, or what you need to be able to spend dollars on to be able to advance your production year and stuff. I just think it keeps you more in tune.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very smart, like it's very Ferris Bueller-esque of you, right? Like life moves very pretty fast. You got to be prepared. You
Yeah.
know, my
Yeah.
my dad was always very, like, my dad taught my brother and I that's just a part of business. You take your books, you take your balance sheet, you go once every other month or once every quarter at the very most. You go sit down with your lender and you go through what you're doing, what you're up to, and that way, if you had to buy new trucks or buy whatever, that
Hmm.
it was never a very long conversation,
Yeah.
because you knew
Yeah.
from the look on their face the last time you went and talked to them about what you're doing, whether you were going to be able to do it or not. So
Yeah.
you really didn't even, and you kind of told them what you were planning on doing in that conversation anyway.
And
So
it doesn't need to be that scary. I've just worked with two clients this last week. One has been a producer for a long time, and another was, they were just getting their feet wet. And both of them, the one that was a producer for a long time had some apprehension of, oh, balance sheet. It just it kind of seemed scary to them, but it's when I spent the time and just worked with them and went through what are the nuts and bolts that can be on their balance sheet and can be readily available and such like that. it's really not as scary as it seems, especially when you have a good Excel spreadsheet or whatever it might be. The other individual, the family, her and her husband that are kind of just getting their feet wet and such, they've never really put together a balance sheet. So they were just kind of getting involved in some things. And I think when people hear the word, maybe they think it's a little bit scarier than what it is.
Yeah.
And I guess it's really probably no scary than just taking a look at some, your checkbook. You want to balance that out. You want to know what deposits are coming in. You want to know what expenses are going out, and just kind of keeping that in order a little bit. It offers a peace of mind, and it's not as scary as it seems. And we're here to make that process a lot simpler and a lot more effective for people, so that they can go through these things and have their figures and their finances available when they need them and want them.
Yeah, no, that's very smart. And again, like, what you want in your world is you want people that are going to be partners to your business, right? You want those trusted advisors that, again, and I think it's very smart that you're telling people the kind of stuff that is preparing people to, maybe you're not ready to make that decision today, or you're not finding the piece of property today that you need, but that may come very quickly. And I know in my business, when somebody decides to sell a quarter or sell something, that when they make up their mind, from the time they do it to the time they want it gone, usually isn't an amount of years. It's usually we're done with it. And
Yeah.
it happens fairly quickly. So let's take a quick break, Roger, and we will be right back.
Land isn't just dirt. It's where memories are made, families are raised, and livelihoods are built. But when it comes time to sell or buy, the weight of the decision is heavy. Where do you even start? Who can you trust to guide you? For too long, land transactions have been treated like a simple exchange. Numbers on a paper, a signature on a line. But it's more than that. At High Point Land Company, we don't just list land. We walk it, we learn its story, and we find the right buyer who understands its worth. You are not just another deal. You are the steward of something bigger. And we're here to help you navigate every step of the way. When it's time to sell, when it's time to buy, we're here. Because land is more than just land. It's your legacy.
All right, we are back with Roger Wiese with Mac America Ag Financing. And once again, you can find these guys online at aglandfinance.com. That's aglandfinance.com. And Roger, if it's okay with you, we're going to put your contact information in the show notes so that people can go check that out, get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Yep. Include my email and phone number. You bet.
Yep, we'll spam the heck out of you, so you can you can have all kinds of people calling you. And my assumption is if I don't think on your website, if I remember right, I don't think they have like all your individual agents or your mortgage officers with their locations on there as this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't believe that's on there right now. No.
So people have to get a hold of you to find your partners in crime at the different parts of the country where they're at.
You bet.
But they can get a hold of you, and you can get the ball rolling, I would assume.
You bet. Yep.
All right. Let's talk about Mac America. Not a whole lot of folks out there specializing in agricultural land for as far as financing goes. I know you guys work directly with Farmer Mac. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that
Okay.
is correct. Farmer Mac, will work directly with them, and then um, some other lending institutions that work with us to help back our loans and such like that. So some local and et cetera. So yeah,
But your job is essentially like you qualify people. You are the you're the financing arm for people that are looking to finance ground, and it can be any no houses, right? No real structures unless it has to do with production and agriculture, correct? So
sure.
you can have
hmm
grain bins and shops and things, but we're not looking for residential properties.
Yes, yeah. For the most part, yes, it's all got to be ag related or an ag component. So, yes, when uh, somebody looks at calling me for any type of uh, ag finance services, it may be anything from looking at purchasing some land, or recently, I guess probably yeah, I'd definitely say an increase in looking at options and alternatives to refinancing. Some folks looking at maybe they are currently on a 5 year or 10-year note, and they would like to look at some options for refinancing and going a little bit longer term. Uh, uh, Up to 30 years, which is something that we specialize, 30-year fixed, and be able to look at providing a little more operational or a little bit more liquid capital into their pockets that they can use for operational um, uses or whatever that may be. So that's something that can be a really good thing. I know we've been able to solve some big pictures for some folks that are just looking at turning the tides a little bit and wanting a little bit more liquid capital into their pockets. So that's been good. Some of the things that we can specialize with the even up to the 30-year. No origination fee, also no prepay penalties and such like that. So that's nice.
That is nice.
Try to work with people on that. Again, it probably goes back to the biggest thing that at least that I look at is, oh, sure, I like to be able to say a lot of the special things that we have through Mac America, a lot of the tools and the things that kind of can make us different. But I like to focus on one of the biggest things that I believe can really make us different. And that is, Kobe, that's getting back to establishing the relationship with the individual. Before I ever want to get into what Mac can do or what we can provide, I really want to know from an advisor standpoint here. I want to know the client. I want to know what they're looking at doing. I want to know what they have. So I really try to develop, and I think all of our finance advisors of Mac America look at really trying to focus on that relationship with that individual and to let or family and let that go beyond just being able to secure a loan or being able to secure financing. We put all of our clients into a database, and when we see the opportunity that refinancing may come down the road, to be able to work in line with their goals, their business goals, whether that be interest rates or dropping at a particular percentage difference of what they were looking at or whatever it might be. We like to touch base with our clients continually. I reach out to my clients continually a number of times a year and make sure, are things looking the way they want? Are they progressing in the way that they want? And if they're looking at a certain change, we'll reach back out to them. You don't have to come to us. A client doesn't have to come back to us to see, well, would it be a good time to refinance? We're ahead of the game in reaching back out to our clients. And again, to me, that's the relationship. Without being able to know your clients and specialize in that, it's difficult to be able to say that you're really providing the service that you want.
Yeah. No, and That's, I think, the important part about it is like developing those relationships is important, and I think that you guys do that very, very well, and are just a great tool in the industry. And so we appreciate you. I know that. So, Roger, you've been doing this for a little bit. What's one of the more crazy things, like, that you've seen trying to get something sold? What's one of the more crazy uh, closings that you've gone through?
Oh, crazy closing. That's kind of a good one. I don't really have too many of those questions as far as the crazy ones. Um, I uh just been trying. I guess one of the more recent ones, and just looking at is when there's been a few families that have been looking at, and I say families, I always like to say just the families and not just the producer, because I know this, it is a family. If anybody is in the for ag production business, it is a family business when you are in it, period.
Me
I
too.
don't know it any other way, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. But I think it's just kind of looking at that, uh, how they can really look at expanding. Some folks have just thought, oh, they'd love to be able to purchase the land, I guess, that's contiguous to them, so to speak, because their dad was looking at that, and maybe their father has passed in this case, and they were looking at that land. Their father was looking at that land for the last 50 years. If that ever comes available, we'd like to be able to get that. And looking at things now in times of probably a little uncertainty with some folks, and you say crazy. I don't know how crazy it is. It's probably more heartfelt in this case, that they just didn't, a year ago, didn't think it was ever an opportunity. They could never even get to it because they just couldn't see the picture. Well, what wants to go through a little bit and work with the family and get to know them and really get to know what their business model is going to want. If that pasture land that's contiguous to them is really going to suit their needs, and how that will all work with them, and what they can do with the row crop land, the acres that are with it and such like that. And just to be able to work with them from that standpoint, look at their debt to asset ratio, and what maybe assets do they have, or maybe not producing as much income for them anymore, or to be able to, that are not a productive part of their business. That's the best way to say it. What assets that they had that were not a productive part of their business as much, because it was something that they really weren't looking at. They just looked at, well, we have these assets, we have this, we have that, we have this equipment. But was it better to be able to, maybe in this case it was, to be able to sell some of the equipment and look at leasing or renting because of that aspect of their operation, and really be able to piece things together and redo their balance sheet. And then it was like all of a sudden you could just see their eyes, and it's nice to not just look at the eyes from the producer. In this case, it was the husband, but the family, the his spouse and his older children, like, we can make this happen,
Yeah.
through the interaction of working with them over a number of weeks, months, whatever that may be, to be able to spend time with them and really see that this can really happen. We can do this. 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we didn't think there was any way. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's a crazy aspect or not, but in a way it is, because I've been there personally, thinking, oh, I might not ever be able to do that. But with the right people in the life of my wife and I, being able to really spend some time and have people that have offered that care and concern and work with us, it's like, when that light bulb goes off, that you can make something happen, and you can go forth with your business plan for the next 5-10 years, whatever you think it might be, your family business plan. I tell you, it's really neat to be involved with that. And I guess that's what I throw out there as probably, if anything, that's just kind of the crazy part, I guess, however you want to say it. But it's a neat thing to be involved in and see how that works.
Yeah, I always said that when, like when I first got involved in real estate, I sold houses. And, the first time you sit down with a first time home buyer at a closing table and you like watch the process, go through the process with them from educating them on how they can buy a home till handing them the keys to their first home, it's an addiction that, you, and I think it doesn't change any from, helping people through that process of getting that perfect piece of property that fits just right in with their operation. It's a similar feeling where you can help somebody not just make it work, but just it fits just perfect. So I totally understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
If you could just look into look out at the audience and tell people, that first time buyer or whatever out there, if you could just give them one piece of advice today before we take off, that they could take away, what would that piece of advice be? Like one thing that we talked about today that they should take away from today.
You bet. Do not be afraid to reach out and to ask. If you have a thought or, I would really, why can't we do this? Is this a possibility? To reach out to myself or somebody else, whatever. I'm just going to say, to be able to reach out and talk to somebody that may be able to help walk them through some possibilities, to be able to take their information, right? Take their thoughts, their viewpoints, what they see, their dream of being, their 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, whatever that may be, and to be able to put that in a picture that helps them to be able to see what are some of the possibilities. Because I believe I truly believe if you just hold that in and you're not seeking seeking out the folks that can offer any of that support or that help, you just may not see the picture very clear. And do not be afraid to reach out and ask. It just helps you. It helps you put those logistical answers in front of you so that a family, a producer can make the best decisions that they can. And I see from time to time, probably too many people, we wanted to ask you 6 months ago, or after that Farm and Home show, when we talked with you and we had that great conversation over a cup of coffee and some rolls. That was awesome. And I don't know why my husband and I, we talked at home for the last 9 months. And so finally we just said, there's his business card. Let's give him a call. And don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to call 10, 20 times well before that time period. Because I think that's what helps paint a clearer picture. And so that's probably my biggest advice before anything else, because to me, that's the first step in anything. So,
well, if you ask a question, the answer might be no, but if you don't ask a question, the answer is always no.
The answer is always no. Yeah.
That is important to remember.
Yeah, it sounds very simple, but truth of it is, I'm sure, Kobe, in your industry, you get the same thing, but it truly is. And then I have to look back on it myself. I have to take those words and put it back on me too, because there's times with other things, I may not ask or whatever. A great example is maybe when your kids are going off to college. I don't want to ask the advisor that or something, when your kids may be going off, and it's like, I wish I would have asked that, 6 months ago when they were starting. It's like, wow, would we have known, so, just do not hesitate, because that's also how how we work through a relationship. And that allows us to foster a relationship back and forth together. to be able to leave yourself vulnerable to ask those questions and see what we come up with. Because lots of times a good answer can be found.
Sure.
So
how do folks get a hold of you, Roger?
You can reach me via my cell phone number, 402-340-3086, or email is rwiese, W-I-E-S-E, at aglandfinance.com. And there you go. So best way is just give me a call or a text. 402-340-3086.
And we will put your information in our show notes so that people can get a hold of you if they need you, man. Appreciate your time today, Roger Wiese with Mac America Ag Financing. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And we will see you all down the road.
As we wrap up another episode of the American Land Seller Podcast, thank you for joining us. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms. If you would be so kind and you enjoyed today's insights, please like, subscribe, rate, follow, and review us on whatever app you are listening or watching on. Connect with us on social media for updates. Until next week, Kobe wishes you success in your land endeavors. God bless you and have a great week.
The American Land Seller is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. Are you in the market for the perfect piece of land? Look no further than LandHub.com, your solution to the biggest challenges facing land buyers and sellers today. At LandHub, we're revolutionizing land transactions by effectively connecting buyers and sellers. Say goodbye to the struggle of finding or marketing land for sale. We understand the power of new media marketing, leveraging social media and targeted ads to bring together the ideal audience for all property types. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit landhub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. Landhub.com, where your land journey begins. And High Point Land Company. When it comes to buying and selling land, High Point Land Company sets the standard for excellence across the Midwest and beyond. Our expert land specialists bring unmatched market knowledge and a personal touch to every single transaction. Whether it's a farm, ranch, recreational, or even investment property, we provide the expertise and integrity you can trust. Looking to buy or sell? We offer a premier selection of properties and a marketing strategy designed to get you results. From productive farmland to recreational retreats, we help you maximize your investment. Visit www.highpointlandcompany.com today and experience the difference. High Point Land Company, a true leader in land sales.